Hello.
You've broken the fast now, right?
All done.
Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate
Good
it.
to see you. Thank you.
Pierre Dr. Khan is one of our
Thank you, Dr. Khan. What a wonderful occasion to be part of. Thank you. Wow, where should I leave my shoes?
No, you don't have to. Just come along,
Welcome. Thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you for being with us. Thank you. Thank you, Baisakhi Mubarak.
Thank you so much.
अच्छा दोनों भी चलो
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Mubarak. It's Raj from Saudi. It's finance credit. Yeah. Thank you for all being here.
He's a young supporter of my son,
Smart young man.
there's another one, he's in Montreal, he's a fan of him.
अज़ीज़ान मन सबको ईद मुबारक। आपकी तवज्जो दरकार है।
I'm going to say something about that.
Absolutely.
अल्लाह का शुक्र है, अल्लाह का शुक्र है। रमज़ान के बाद एक अरसे के बाद इस मौके के ऊपर मैं देख रहा हूँ हॉल के इर्द सब खुश चेहरे नजर आ रहे हैं। सबको मेरी तरफ से ईद मुबारक।
Mubarak.
सबकी तरफ से मुझे भी। तो I have to tell you, जैसा कि आप देख रहे हैं, there are some distinguished members here today with us on this auspicious occasion. They have come here to join us on this blessed day and share with us some of their thoughts and share with us some of their sentiments. And in a minute here, I would like to introduce one of the people, the Chief Opposition Whip, Carrie Lynn Finley, and I will have her take her place here and get the things going. So, Honorable Carrie Lynn Finley,
Good evening, Assalamu alaikum. Eid Mubarak. Thank you for waiting. You've been very patient. We appreciate it very much. I'm not going to take too much time. I know that I'm on the main event. You want to hear from our leader, Pierre Poilievre, but I will say this. As his chief opposition whip, it's a big job, and I have to keep people in line sometimes, keep them doing what they're supposed to do, even him once in a while. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I am the Member of Parliament for South Surrey White Rock. So I've met a number of my constituents here this evening already, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that and spend some time with you. Our leader is a hardworking man and a man who believes in the common people, who believes in bringing hope instead of hurt to Canada. Many people are struggling right now, struggling to pay for bills, struggling to get their businesses back up and going after the lockdown, struggling in many ways. And we understand that, and we want to be your voice. We're also the party of freedom. We believe in freedom of religion. We believe in freedom of speech. We believe in freedom of assembly. We want to be part of a free country, but we want to be in an affordable country, which right now there are many challenges. So I want to tell you that he is a family man. He's married to the beautiful Naveed. They have 2 little children, a boy and a girl, and he takes time away from them always to come and spend time here in British Columbia. He's been visiting us fairly often. We'd like to see him even more, of course. So I hope this is the beginning of many opportunities with the Muslim community here. And with that, I give you my leader, Pierre Poilievre. Oh, I should mention my colleagues, Waraich Khan, who is here from Calgary, Forest Lawn, Brad Bist, who is here from the Lower Mainland, my friend Shabbir Hill as well. Dr. Shabbir, Dr. Khan, thank you for hosting us here this evening. You've been most kind. And with that, I give
all of you here today in beautiful British Columbia. Eid Mubarak. Eid Mubarak. Salam alaikum. This is, I think, my 6th Ramadan and Eid celebration. Just yesterday morning, I did 2 in Toronto. So I've been really celebrating. I have to admit, I did not honor the entire fast, though. I might have missed the occasional meal, but I did sit down with an imam to help understand why it is that Muslims fast throughout Ramadan. Because I have a hard time, I get very grouchy if I don't have breakfast. And I thought, what is the reasoning for this? And they taught me the very special background that there are really 3 reasons. One is humility, that when we deprive ourselves of some things that we want, it makes us humble, because it reminds us that we are not the center of the universe, but God is. Secondly, it reminds us of those who have empty stomachs because they are less fortunate. And third, it provides something called taqwa. Taqwa is consciousness of God. It reminds us to be in connection with God at all times. So I think we are constantly. And now with the breaking of the fast, the reward comes for all of that discipline. And on behalf of the Conservative Party of Canada, the official opposition, and members of Parliament here today, the great Brad Bist from British Columbia, and Shadow Minister of Small Business, Waraich Singh Alan, the Shadow Minister of Finance, and Chief Whip, and former Member of Parliament Tamara Jensen, who is also here. We want to congratulate Muslims from across Canada on bringing yourselves through this period of faith, self-sacrifice, and closeness with God. It enriches all of us to have Muslims practicing these traditions here in Canada. And I think it's important. So it's interesting. This springtime, we had Easter, Ramadan, Vishu, and Vaisakhi all at the same time. Very unusual for those things to happen all at once. But the calendars all line up. Here's why I think it's important. Because it has been a long winter in Canada. You don't know anything about winter out here, so stop your complaining. I come from a place where it gets very cold, but it has been a long 8-year winter in Canada. People have been suffering. The cost of living has led 1 in 5 Canadians to skip meals because they can't afford food. 1.5 million going to the food bank. One food bank even said people are coming in asking for help with medical assistance in dying, not because they're sick, but because they're too hungry and miserable to go on living in this country of ours. The housing costs have doubled over the last 8 years. And around 9 in 10 young people believe they will never be able to afford a home. This next lady is just reporting my speech back to Justin Trudeau. Okay? It's okay, but not a problem. And so, young people can't get into a home. How can you start a family, build collateral, credit history if you don't own a home? And all this hopelessness is spilled out into our streets with more and more crime and more drug use. Everything feels broken in Canada. But the good news is that we're going to turn that hurt into hope. We're going to bring home a Canada that works for the people who work. Yes. We're going to do that based on common sense. Here's how. We're going to bring home lower prices by canceling the inflationary carbon tax and the deficits that have been driving up the cost of living. $500 billion in inflationary deficits mean more money buying fewer goods, which equals higher prices. You have $10 and 10 loaves of bread, it's $1 for each loaf. If you double the number of dollars to 20, but you still have only 10 loaves of bread, now it's $2 for each loaf. That's what happens when governments create cash. They cause inflation. And we have had the worst inflation in 40 years because of all of these money printing deficits. We'll bring in a common sense law. The dollar for dollar law that requires the government find $1 of savings each time they announce a new dollar of spending. We'll run the government's finances the way you run your household finances, the way small businesses run their finances. If you want to spend more here, you have to spend less there, or you have to get a bargain on here and there to come in under the budget. The government needs to start to pinch its pennies because you've been pinching your pennies for too long. We're also going to get rid of the carbon tax to bring down gas, heat, and grocery bills. And we're going to, you can applaud that. We're going to bring home powerful paychecks. Dr. Bushra, I got it right? She was just telling me a moment ago that the government is chewing up her paycheck, taking more than half of her money. She works hard as a doctor. We need more doctors. But you know, a little boy was asking his father the other day, what is a tax form? And the father said, it's the opposite of a report card. The better you do, the more you get punished, right? We punish work in Canada. It's called the war on work. You have something called a marginal effective tax rate. It's the amount of each extra dollar you earn that you lose to the government. Marginal effective tax rate, METR, meter. It's like a parking meter, but instead of paying to park, you pay to work. Why would we punish people for working hard? We should reward hard work. So a Pierre Poilievre-led government will reform the tax system and cut income taxes so that you bring home more of each dollar you earn, and hard work once again pays off. We're going to make it possible for immigrants to bring home powerful paychecks by removing the government gatekeepers that block professionals from working in their field. We have 20,000 immigrant doctors and 32,000 immigrant nurses banned from working in our hospitals simply because they were trained abroad. Here's the solution. Why don't we have a national Blue Seal test to ensure that every foreign-trained doctor can meet our standard? So that within 60 days, yes. We have it for the trades. If you want to be a mechanic, you write the Red Seal test. You get a Red Seal. You can practice mechanics right across Canada. You're in Canada right now for professionals. Even if you get licensed in BC, you might not be able to practice in Newfoundland or Ontario. We ban our own people. I had a young doctor today who actually practiced in America. She came here and couldn't be a doctor. I mean, doing a heart valve doctor in Canada is the same as in the US, right? So you should be able to be a doctor if you're qualified. So why not have a Blue Seal exam so that immigrants that write the exam can find out within 60 days, yes or no, whether they pass, and get them to work, bigger, more powerful paychecks for our immigrants, and more doctors and nurses to reduce our wait lines in our hospitals. We're going to bring homes people can afford. Our young people can't afford homes. Why? Why is it that the average house in the United States is almost half of the average house in Canada? They have 10 times the people and less land. It should be more expensive there, but yet we pay more here. We have the fewest houses per capita of any country in the G7 because we have, even though we have the most land to build on. Why? Government gatekeepers. It takes up to 10 years to get a building permit. We rank 64th in the world for the time it takes to get building permits. In Vancouver, government red tape costs $650,000 for every house. all of that gets passed on to the home buyer. That's why our young people can't afford homes. A Pierre Poilievre-led government will require municipalities speed up and lower the cost of building permits and free up land so that we can build more homes. If they don't free up that land, I will cut their infrastructure budget. However, if they do, if they speed up the permits and build more houses, I'll give them a building bonus. So in other words, we'll link the number of dollars a big city gets for infrastructure to the number of houses that actually get built. It's a result of this system. We're going to require every federally funded transit station to have high-density housing around it and on top of it, so our young people and our seniors can live right next to the bus or train. We're going to sell 6,000 federal buildings so that they can be converted into affordable housing for our young people. And we're going to bring in more immigrant building trades workers who can help us build millions of new homes to put a roof overhead. But we want those homes to be in safe neighborhoods. We've seen crime ravaging our streets. It's up 32% since Justin Trudeau became Prime Minister. Why? Catch and release bail. Catch and release parole. The criminal gets arrested in the morning, they're released before noon. Do you know that in Vancouver, the same 40 people were arrested 6,000 times. 40 people arrested 6,000 times. That's 150 arrests per person per year. So if you put those 40 people in prison, you'd have 6,000 fewer crimes. 6,000 fewer women hit over the head with a baseball bat. 6,000 fewer people stabbed with a knife on the transit station. 6,000 fewer corner stores robbed, just by taking those 40 worst criminals off the street. So my common sense plan is we're going to make sure that there is jail and not bail for repeat violent offenders. Keep the most violent offenders. And Trudeau now, along with the NDP, they're giving out drugs. They've not only legalized heroin, crack, fentanyl, and other deadly drugs. This is not just legal. They're paying for it with your money. To give this stuff out, they say, oh, this is a safe supply of drugs. If they're going to use drugs, it might as well be clean from contaminants. We'll give them up. There are vending machines where you can go out and go, doop, 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 and out drops a taxpayer-funded hit of hydromorphine. What happens? The addict takes the drug, but they get bored because it's not strong enough. So they sell the drugs to kids. And they take the profits and they buy more powerful drugs. Then the kids get addicted. And the kids get bored with those drugs, so that they sell them off to someone else to buy more powerful drugs. And we've lost 30,000 people to drug overdoses. This makes no sense. I'm going to take that money and put it into treatment and recovery to get our brothers and sisters, our friends and neighbors off of drugs. And I'm going to ban hard drugs altogether. Pharmaceutical companies, the corrupt drug companies that brought these drugs here in the first place, tricked the doctors and the nurses and our regulators into overprescribing them to cause the addiction. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew they were killing people, but they did it for the profits. The Americans have sued these companies and got $54 billion in settlements out of it. I will be suing these companies, and I will take the money from those lawsuits and use it for drug treatment. So we can do freedom. Canada should be the freest nation on earth. People come here from all around the world to practice their religion, to live their lives, to think freely, speak freely, and work freely in a nation where government is servant and not master. And that is why a Pierre Poilievre government will repeal the censorship laws that allow government to control what you see and say on the internet. We'll make sure that faith leaders are allowed to spread their faith without any censorship by government. And we will crack down on hate crimes and Islamophobia. Anybody who attacks our places of worship should be put behind bars and punished in prison. I will speak out against Islamophobia here and everywhere across the country, and I will stand up against the abuses by CRA and Immigration Canada who discriminate against our Muslim people. What we want really is a country where it doesn't matter if you say Moishe or Musa, whether you say Aaron or Harun, whether you say Jesus or Isa, Isaac or Ishaq, David or Dawood, regardless of your faith, regardless of how you choose to worship God, you should be free to live your life here in Canada. That's why my wife came here as a refugee. That's why we bring 400,000 or 500,000 people to our shores every year to experience freedom, to live their lives, and to be masters and not servants in their country. It really is common sense. The common sense of the common people united for our common home. Your home, my home, our home, Canada, let's bring it home.
Eid Mubarak.
Common sense solutions for our problems. I'm pretty sure that under your able leadership, we will be able to achieve that. We are there as a community to support your initiatives, and we will always be there. So once again, guys, put your hands together.
أيام الكرم باي باي لراتب هذا المحترم شكرا باي باي يا زحمة ويا طابور وأهلا بوجه طبيعي كله نور باي باي يا ضيق لا تعود فالكون براح ياكل وجود يا أهلا أهلا يا شمس ويا حياة باي 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 يا ظل ويا شتاء وأهلا أهلا أهلا يا عيد أهلا يا زينة المواعيد وسهلا اليوم كل الناس أهلا والفرح خير والناس
عيد العيد الله على عيد وليالي العيد وليالي العيد والبيت في البيت نقطف عناوين
يا أيام الكرم وباي باي لراتب هذا المحترم شكرا باي باي يا زحمة ويا لابو بوجه طبيعي كله نور باي باي يا ضيق لا تعود